It's time!
3, 2, 1, go. Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down. Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Shout out Young Swish.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Strikes and Submissions show here on the Right Way Sports Network. Make sure you check us out. Follow us on YouTube, like the video, subscribe. You got to follow us on Twitter. You got to follow my main man, Michael Daly, on Twitter as well for great stuff. Me as well. But yeah, let's get right into it. We just had one of the biggest pay-per-view events of the year in the UFC, if not the biggest, and it was awesome. Let's just start there. There was so much great stuff that we had in that card. We're here to unpack it all. And yeah, I mean, how you doing, Michael? You doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing well. You know, obviously at the end of our show today, I'm going to talk about it being my last show, but talk about, Dash, a card of the year on paper, and it lived up to that billing. It was an outstanding card from top to bottom, and we're here to talk all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start off with some old timers who, one of them, you know, laid down the gloves in the octagon, and that is Cowboy Cerrone, and he took on Jim Miller, and Jim Miller did. I mean, he had him in an airtight chokehold, was able to put him out. But I think that fight, people weren't really paying too much attention to the actual fight. It was really a lot more about Cowboy Cerrone retiring. I mean, he's been just a face of the sport, I feel like. He's been such an influential figure in the UFC for so long. So many people love Cowboy. And, I mean, it sucks to see him retire, but it was time. It was definitely time. He could have probably done it a little bit earlier, too. But it was awesome to see the two UFC all-time wins leaders go head-to-head for the decision on who was going to be the all-time wins leader. And, you know, congratulations to Jim Miller. But I don't know, Michael. I kind of would have liked to see Cowboy go out on top. What about you?
I hated that fight for Cowboy in the first place because he was supposed to fight Joe Lozon, and odds are that would have been his last fight. Because he even said in January, I knew it was over. I was going to have one more fight, and that was it. Odds are it would have been against Joe Lozon, and odds are it probably would have been a win because I liked his chances of beating Joe Lozon. Jim Miller, not so much. Case in point, the fight. Jim Miller, his striking has developed beautifully over the years. And his grappling, his jiu-jitsu, second to none. And it just showed that an aging Cowboy Cerrone, as good of takedown defense as he once had, as good of submission defense as he once had, at this stage in his career, he couldn't handle it. And I feel bad for Jim Miller because the moment was taken away from him. This was the moment where, okay, your legacy is defined as the all-time wins leader in UFC history. Here's your ticket to the Hall of Fame. But, you know, and it's no fault of anyone's, especially Cowboy Cerrone, but Cowboy Cerrone said, you know what? I got to leave my gloves in the octagon because it's it. I got to soak in this moment. So I did feel bad for Jim Miller that he couldn't celebrate that moment and have the moment to himself. But sharing it with Cowboy Cerrone, that's not a bad job either.
No, not at all. And I mean, he was a great sportsman about it all.
Yeah.
And after the win, I mean, he said, wait. Let's go over to the other guy. He's well deserving of an awesome retirement. And I mean, hey, I'm sure we'll be seeing Cowboy in some movies coming up. After all, he did retire to become a TV star, movie star. Yeah. So, you know, hope for the best for that. We'll see if we see him pulling any GSPs and making his way into what movie was that? He was in like one of the Avengers
Captain
movies,
America,
right? Yeah.
Avengers, yeah.
Yep. So I mean, hey, you never know where we'll see Cowboy next. But
yeah,
talking about next, let's go on to the next fight. that we're going to be talking about, and that was the fight between Gabe Green and the future Ian Machado Gary. Michael, what do you think of that fight? Was he the future?
He's the future for the reason. And the reason why he is the future, quote unquote, his striking, when he's on, he is good. He looks electric. Gabe Green, I think, was a solid test for him. Gabe Green has experience in Bellator. I think that was a nice opponent for him. And it was a level up because in a few other fights that he had against Jordan Williams and his fight after that, he was touched up a bit and he was bleeding. And, you know, he looked a little vulnerable. Not bad, but he looked a little vulnerable. This fight, though, you saw the work he was putting in with Henry Hooft down in Florida. He's the real deal. He obviously needs time to develop, especially if you're going to compare him to other prospects or contenders that are making their way up the ranks. I wouldn't even consider him a contender anywhere near.
No.
But he's a prospect with a bright, bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we, obviously because he's Irish, I think we compare him just like naturally to Conor McGregor. And that's an unfair comparison for anybody. Nobody should ever be compared to Conor McGregor because it's just hard to live up to. And so, I mean, I think part of that is Anya and Gary. He kind of labels himself as that, like, and he quotes Conor McGregor a lot. And I don't know. I mean, he's not going to have that same ascent to stardom, but I think he's got all the tools. And I mean, he showed a lot to me. He proved to me that he really is the real deal and that he is the future. And I'm really excited to see what his future holds in the UFC because I could see him potentially being a champion one day. Certainly can't say the same for Gabe Green, but he put up a great fight. I mean, it was a war. He didn't give an inch. But Ian Gary was just absolutely technical, and it was just not a masterclass, but it was pretty darn close.
This is probably his best performance in the UFC so far. And you know what, Dash? He's in the right camp if he wants to be a champion. And everyone in the UFC wants to be a champ, but Florida is the right place to be. And I think the fighters that he surrounded himself with, he's in the right spot. So with training with Gilbert and a host of others, he's in the right place. And I think if he just keeps building and taking tough fights, because Gabe Green is not a cupcake. He's not a walk in the park. But he's a good guy, though, to have on your resume. And then you just keep stacking these wins. And eventually you get a ranked fight. And if you win that, then you get a top 5 or a top 10 guy. And if you win that, then you start calling for a title fight. Yeah,
he's certainly got plenty of work to do. And I think he shouldn't rush it. I think he's plenty young enough that he can take his time. Yeah, exactly. I believe he's 24. I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, he's got a future ahead of him, and it's a bright one. I just hope he's able to take it slow and really work his way through the proper channels, because sometimes you get offered those big fights. Like guys like Ian Gary, those big prospects get offered like, oh, do you want to take on this ranked fighter? Like we know the hype is there. People would watch that fight. But a lot of times it doesn't work out for him. And so I think that as long as Ian Gary's able to really control his trajectory in the UFC, I think that it's going to do really, he has a really bright future, and he's going to do really well for quite a while, I think. But moving on to another person who I personally see as a future champion, let's talk a little bit about Jalin Turner. He fought Brad Riddell this last weekend, and boy, was it a quick one. He made easy work of Brad Riddell, hit him hard one time, knocked him to the ground, came in, finished it with a guillotine or a rear naked choke, and was able to get him out of there in just a minute or so. So, Michael, my question for you is Jalin Turner a legitimate contender for the lightweight belt?
He is a contender, because if you can beat Brad Riddell in that fashion, and Brad Riddell is coming off 2 straight stoppage losses. So, I mean, that just goes to show the beating he has taken recently and the level of opponents Brad Riddell has faced. Rafael Fiziev, and then now Jalin Turner. So if you beat Brad Riddell, you've placed yourself amongst great company, and you have positioned yourself to one day potentially fight for a title. With that being said, I don't know if he'll ever be champion. And his size advantage that he has over everyone is great. But once you start getting into the top 5, that size only gets you so far. And he is talented. He's great on the ground. He's great standing up. But can he beat a Charles Oliveira? Can he beat a Justin Gaethje? What about a Michael Chandler? Have you ever heard of anyone named Islam Makhachev? Those are the guys he would be fighting. Oh, Rafael Fiziev, potentially. So I just threw out 5 to 6 names out there. And look, I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade. He's a great fighter. If he keeps it going, one day he could be there. But I'm not there just yet to say this guy is a future champion. I'm not there just yet because he has 5 or 6 killers that he will also have to get past. And as great as he is on the ground, he would be going up against guys who are just as good, if not better, on the ground than he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, some of those guys, I mean, to start, Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira, right? These are elite, the best of the best on the ground. And Jalin Turner, while he got a submission win against Brad Riddell. That's nothing to look past, but it's different. I mean, Oliveira's been putting like the best of the best to sleep for years. So, I mean, it is a different animal, but I really do think he has a good chance because, he has a good chance as long as he can stay at lightweight, because being as big as he is, that's a tough weight cut. Like that is not his natural size. Nobody is 6'3" and just coming down and like resting at 155. Like he is just a freak of nature with the way he's able to make these weight cuts and still look so big. I mean, he looked great in the octagon on Saturday. So I do think he has the ability to, while he's able to make that weight cut, because again, being 6'3" in that division is just unheard of. It just doesn't happen. And I think that if he can get, I think kind of opposite of Ian Gary, he needs to go up and fight the best of the best now. And he needs to do it while he's able to make this weight cut and while he's able to do it and still have that energy. Because as guys get older, we see them stop cutting that weight because it's just too tough on the body. It's hard for every fighter in the UFC to make weight cuts. And for a guy like Jalin Turner, that's just such an extreme cut that I worry about his longevity in the lightweight division. But if he's able to get some of those big fights right here, right now, if he's able to get to a title shot in maybe 2 or 3 fights, that's an absolute possibility in my mind that he could do that and he could win.
Yeah, his time is now. I think you touched on that. His time is now. The iron is hot, so you got to strike. Could he fight someone like Matthias Gamrot? I think that would be a really cool fight of 2 guys who are, fringe title contenders or on their way to being potential title contenders. They could fight. I think that would be a good matchup, and I would like to see that. I would favor Jalin Turner in that, but once you get past one more win, then you're with the big dogs. Then you're with Dustin Poirier if he stays at 155. Then you're with Michael Chandler. You're with a ton of guys that are tough outs. That's the way they are. I don't know. He has the skills to fight for a world title, but that division is so gridlocked. So he has to just keep one by one just knocking off guys. So that
and I think they have to be emphatic. I think it has to be a lot more of what we've just seen, because getting a third round or like a decision win against some of these guys, it doesn't really show that you're deserving of getting that stuff. Obviously, these are tough people to beat, so beating them by decision is no joke. But it's just difficult because to really ascend through the lightweight division, like you said, it's one of the most tightly packed. It's gridlocked. So, I mean, to be able to get through that, you have to emphatically win. You have to put on a show every single night. And I mean, I think he's definitely capable of that. I'm worried about the time frame, and he doesn't have a lot of time. I think he's 27 now. And so I think he's got 3 or 4 years maybe that he's going to be able to continue to make this cut to the lightweight division. But man, if he's able to continue to do it and keep putting on performances like we saw on Saturday night, keep the name Jalin Turner in your mind. Keep it there, because he could really make some waves. Another guy who could really make some waves, Michael. I was so wrong about him. Alex Pereira destroyed Sean Strickland, and I was so wrong. I had Strickland winning that fight, and it didn't take long for him to prove me wrong. So, Michael, what do you have from that fight?
I mean, I know you picked Sean Strickland, but I was emphatic that Sean Strickland was going to win. And you know what? Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you're right. I will say, though, in the back of my mind, I had a feeling that Pereira's technical striking was just too good. And I did say, to be fair, I said last week, it's not even close. Pereira is the more technical striker. He is the better striker, but I just thought Sean Strickland was going to come in with a better game plan. He did not.
Walk straight in front of one of the best kickboxers in the world. Just stand straight in front of him. That's a great idea. What was he doing?
It was not a good idea, but look, Alex Pereira now, he's going to get a third fight. He's going to get a third fight with Israel Adesanya. First in MMA, but third fight because they fought twice in kickboxing. Pereira has the skills to beat Israel Adesanya. He does. Even in MMA, and it's a different discipline, but it's going to be tough to beat Israel Adesanya for a third time. And, you know, we can explore that more talking about Izzy's fight, but Pereira, talk about a fast track. The guy, I don't even think has been in the UFC more than a year. When did he make his debut? November? I could be wrong. I should know this, but I think it was November he made his debut. I want to say it was at UFC in MSG, but it has not been more than a year, and this guy is going to fight for a world title.
Yeah, November the 6th against Andreas Michailidis.
Yes.
And he knocked him out, and then went to decision with Bruno Silva, and then fought the number, I believe Strickland was number 5, and or he was 4 or 5. Again, I should know these things.
He was highly ranked.
He was very highly ranked. Pereira was unranked, came in, boom, takes that spot, and now it's a title shot. And that's the kind of fast track Jalin Turner needs.
Yeah, you know what, Dash? I want to give credit to Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland did not have to take that fight. I think he took the fight because he knew beating Alex Pereira would give him a fight against Israel Adesanya, especially fighting on Izzy's card. You're next in line if you beat the guy who beat Israel Adesanya twice. So I got to give Sean Strickland credit for fighting someone who was unranked, less than a year's worth of experience in the UFC. Now, look, he got knocked out in devastating fashion, but I'm going to give him a ton of credit for that. Having said all of that, though, Alex Pereira, this guy could be the next star in the UFC if he beats Israel Adesanya. Because right now, he's the boogeyman. He's the guy that the UFC said, we need help. Israel Adesanya has cleaned out this division. He's calling for fresh blood. He's just done away with everybody, every challenger, except really for Kelvin Gastelum. He has put an exclamation point on his wins against each challenger. Pereira could be the guy to foil Adesanya's plan. Now, personally, however many months out from that fight, I don't know if Pereira can get it done, but he is the guy, though. He is the only guy from a kickboxing standpoint who can stand toe-to-toe with Izzy.
And I think the thing that's most exciting about this is because he's already beaten him 2 times, again, outside of MMA. But because he's beaten him twice, I don't think this stops at one fight, unless Izzy just absolutely demolishes him. But again, that's not really Izzy's style, for one. And 2, even still, they might give him an extra fight, because just knowing that Pereira can put Israel Adesanya away, the UFC is going to be all over that, because they want to make it interesting, and they can just, I don't care if Alex Pereira gets knocked out, they can show the clips of him beating Israel Adesanya in kickboxing over and over again, and people want another fight. So I think that even if Adesanya wins, I really do think that Pereira gets another shot.
I don't know if it'll be immediate if Pereira loses. It might be a few years because
Really?
look
I
at
don't
I
know.
mean
I think they might want to capitalize. I mean, Pajeda certainly
mm,
isn't the youngest guy in the world. I mean,
no
he's
well I mean
already 34.
yeah, but you could say the same thing though for I mean Marvin Vittoria. It took him over 3 years to get a rematch with Izzy. Paulo Costa was undefeated. When is he gonna rematch Izzy? Probably never. So it's hard. Derek Brunson was one fight away.
But again, Pajeda's already beaten him. So I think that's
Yeah, but it was a
where it
different
comes
sport
in.
though.
It was. And that's why, again, I think, well, I don't know. I need to do more thinking before I make my decision for who would win in that fight because, I mean, again, I need to completely reevaluate what I think of Alex Pajeda because I was beyond wrong. So I don't know. I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on. For sure, if Pajeda gets Israel, they'll get another go at it. But I mean, look, this is very exciting for the middleweight division. Um, Certainly, I think the UFC is happy that Pajeda won. It's a much more marketable fight than Israel versus Sean Strickland would have been. So I mean, I think this past history is just going to make this one of the best fights
Yeah,
of whatever year it actually ends up happening in. Probably 2023. Could even be like December of this year. We don't know.
that'd
We'll
be great.
see. But yeah, I mean, regardless, it's going to be an absolute barn burner. But I want to transition a little bit to a fight that maybe wasn't such a barn burner, and that was between the featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Blessed Holloway. Michael, I watched that fight, and that was, I don't know, it wasn't it wasn't super entertaining because it wasn't particularly close. But I mean, it was a title fight, right? It was in part 3. It was, I don't know. What did you think?
So I think this fight was a big reason why like a lot of people on the internet complained about even the main event or the card in total because they wanted to see someone get knocked out or they wanted to see a very close co-main event. Unfortunately, they didn't get that, but that doesn't mean the card or even the co-main event was boring. It was not. The main event wasn't even boring either, and we'll get more into that. It was just that Alex Volkanovski proved why he is undoubtedly the best 145-pound fighter walking the earth right now. Maybe not all time. He's well on his way because, I mean, 3 wins over Max. You could easily make the argument that he is the better fighter than Max Holloway. I personally needed just a little bit more time before I say that because Max was so dominant. And even that second win over Max was still in question. But
Very
still,
much so.
you got to give Alex Volkanovski his due and his flowers right now. Could Volkanovski remain at 145? He could. You got Yair Rodriguez, you got Brian Ortega. They're coming up on the 16th of July. Josh Emmett's out there. So he's got at least 3 options if he wants to stay at 145. Or he's got that big carrot dangling in front of him, 2 belts for the 155-pound title. He can move up 10 pounds and fight and face either Charles Oliveira, who he wants, or maybe someone like Islam Makhachev, depending on if way the schedule works out and who wins that fight. But either way, though, I think Volkanovski wants to move up in weight, and he has the power, he has the striking to beat someone like Charles Oliveira. I think he does, but Charles Oliveira does have the ultimate winner. He has the ultimate chess move with his submission. So that's what makes it so interesting if Volkanovski moves up to 155.
Yeah, I mean, and I think one of the things that intrigues me the most is Charles Oliveira right now. He wants Conor McGregor. He wants that big money fight, and he doesn't particularly care about. I don't want to say he doesn't care about maintaining his belt because obviously he does, but he's looking more at that Conor McGregor fight and doesn't really want anything else. He wants the big money fight, and I mean, I think he's earned it. He's earned that giant cash grab because he's absolutely dominated for a while now. But if he doesn't actually try to fight for the belt, if he vacates that belt, do you think we could see Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski for the interim belt?
Uh, I'm going to say no, because I think Charles will give McGregor a crack at the title, even though Charles doesn't have the belt right now, but he's next in line. He's essentially like the incumbent. He's the uncrowned champion. So I think, if anything, he'll either give McGregor that title fight or he'll give Islam next. So I think Alexander Volkanovski's road to the title goes through Charles Oliveira in some way, whether it's directly or indirectly. Charles Oliveira has to play some role in Volkanovski fighting for the title, whether it's Oliveira losing to Islam and then Islam granting Oliveira Volkanovski that fight. Either way, the title has to go through Oliveira. That's the way I see it. I don't know how you see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should go through Oliveira, but with the way the UFC works sometimes, I mean, it would not shock me to see the UFC vacate that belt, because, I mean, I don't think it's any secret, but Charles Oliveira isn't necessarily the UFC's favorite champion. And I think it seemed to me like they certainly wanted him to lose to Gaethje. And it didn't happen, obviously. It was quick work. But to me, it seems like Charles Oliveira isn't the favorite. He isn't the favorite champion. And so to me, if he holds out and they say, look, you need to take this fight against Islam, and he says, no, I don't want to. I want to fight Conor McGregor. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if the UFC just said, okay, vacated the belt.
The belt is vacated, though, Dash. The belt is vacated.
Well,
so
because of the weight issue. But I mean, it's right. It's just, I don't know. I think Charles. It's just such a sticky situation in that division, and I think that with the belt being currently undone, again, it's just hard for me to see anybody. Oh, man, I need to see Volkanovski there. I do. I really, really need to see Volkanovski go for that belt. And I think it could be, oh, man. Do you really think that they would create the title fight of Oliveira versus Conor McGregor? Because Conor McGregor, to me, doesn't deserve a title shot right now. Obviously, it's Conor McGregor, and he's always one fight away. But, I mean, does he deserve this, like, a title shot? Like, because I think that's where my biggest problem lies, is if Oliveira doesn't want to fight anybody else with the belt being vacated as it is, could we see like a Volkanovski versus Makhachev like scramble for it? Because I don't know.
Here's what I think is going to happen. The UFC is treating Oliveira as if he never lost the belt. That's how they're treating him. Because, I mean, he is, if you think about it, the uncrowned champion. He should have that belt, but, you know, the scales and him missing weight and whatever. But if he wants McGregor, I think he's going to get that because, for one, it draws a ton of eyes. And Conor McGregor is always one fight away, or he could just skip the line entirely. And if you're Charles Oliveira, why would you not want to fight Conor McGregor? He's the easiest opponent for the most money, and it's the biggest fight you can make. Of course you're going to want Conor McGregor to skip the line. And you don't care about Islam Makhachev.
No, I think my point is more that Charles or the UFC wouldn't want that fight.
I think they would.
Because you think they would? It's just, I don't know. I think it sends a certain message letting a guy like Conor McGregor just cut the whole line when there are guys like true contenders like Islam Makhachev and Conor. I mean, okay, what, he beat Cowboy Cerrone, like, and we just saw how good Cowboy Cerrone is in this day and age, right? Like he's just not that guy. So I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it's Conor McGregor, and he's the biggest name in UFC history, I believe. So I mean, he's certainly right there, but I don't know. That it seems like a bad message to send to your fighters when. So I don't know. The UFC is certainly less political than it's certainly less political than boxing. So I mean, yeah, like I don't think we're gonna get. Man, it's really such an interesting outlook in future for the lightweight division. because of all of this stuff, right? There's so many possibilities, and I personally don't know what's going to happen. But I mean, hey, we can sit here and talk about all the different possibilities all day long.
Yeah.
But we won't, because we got more stuff to get to. So I'll be quiet. Michael, do you have anything else to wrap that one up?
No, let's talk about the main event.
Absolutely, the main event of the evening: Israel Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier. Michael, I will let you accept your loss here.
Yeah, look, hey, you got to be willing to come out on a limb. And you know what? Was I wrong? Yeah, but Jared Cannonier, that 5th round, I just wish he would have put a little bit more on the gas. I would just wish he put his foot on the gas a little bit more, because trying to kickbox and stand with Israel Adesanya without just bull rushing him, you're just going to get picked apart. So in that 5th round, you might as well empty the gas tank as much as you can, because that's the only way you're going to win. And I think there were moments where Cannonier landed a few good shots, and you heard some oohs and ahs throughout the T-Mobile Arena, but it just wasn't enough. And Israel Adesanya proves why I think he's the greatest middleweight in history. I do. I think all time he is, because he's just cleared out the division. And I'm not going to talk too much about Izzy, because we just talked about him with Alex Pereira and how Pereira is next in line. And frankly, if I had to make a pick right now, I think Izzy beats Pereira. I do. I just think he's a better fighter than he was when he lost those 2 times.
I agree. I mean, again, I need to reevaluate what I think of Alex Pereira before I make my official decision on that.
Right.
But I mean, again, like, for my current standing, and if you asked me 5 days ago who would have won this fight, Israel Adesanya, no questions about it. I mean, and I think with your claim that Izzy is the greatest middleweight champion, I mean, look, I love Anderson Silva, and he was one of the guys that really got me into the UFC. But I have to give it to Izzy, man. I do at this point in time, and I just think Israel Adesanya's his reign has been long, and it's been like great, and he hasn't really looked beatable against any of the guys that he's fought so far, which is why I think the Alex Pereira fight is so intriguing, because we know Izzy isn't indestructible because of that. And I mean, after seeing what Jan Blachowicz did, but again, has nothing to do with the middleweight division, because Jan is just a different kind of animal. So, I mean, yeah, Israel put on an absolute dominant performance against Cannonier. Again, like you said, there were moments where Cannonier had me as well as the crowd thinking, oh, maybe, but no, Israel shut everything down really quick and just proved to me and to everybody why he is as good as he is. And I mean, look, his fight wasn't the most exciting thing, but when you come out to the Undertaker's intros, let's go. I mean, he had me hyped up before the fight. Maybe it didn't deliver in terms of the oohs and ahs that you get from knockouts, but it was still a great fight, and I think Cannonier did a lot better than a lot of people thought he would. And so, I mean, I think he certainly put on a good show. But yeah, Israel is the champion of that division, and I think he will remain that way for a while. Because we'll see. I think he beats Alex Pereira in the first fight, but like I said, I think Pereira will get a second shot if he loses or if he wins. I think this is already going to be a potential 2 or 3 fight trilogy. I don't know how to say it. They were going to get more than one fight, I do believe, regardless of who wins the first. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Izzy put on a great show, and I don't know. It was a great main event.
Yeah, and he did that Undertaker walkout in front of Vince McMahon, Triple H, Stephanie McMahon. So, I mean, he knew they were going to be there, and that's why he put it on, too. But a lot of people were disappointed in performance, but last thing I'll say, you got to know Izzy is too calculated fighting someone with the cannons that Jared Cannonier has. He literally puts the cannon in Cannonier. Jared Cannonier has devastating power. And he even complimented Cannonier. He said Cannonier had a very good game plan. He was trying to neutralize a lot of the things that Izzy was doing offensively. But Izzy is just 10 steps ahead of everybody. So I think people call it boring, but if you really appreciate mixed martial arts, you appreciate a performance like that. It's even better than what Robert Whittaker did to Jared Cannonier, and that was a great performance too.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the real people, like the real MMA fans, they understand what's going on there too. And like again, once fighting stops becoming who can knock who out, and you really appreciate the art behind it and the true sport that is MMA.
Right.
I mean, Israel Adesanya is so amazing to watch because of the mind games that are going on. And yeah, he's just a true champion. And yeah, I mean, I was happy with the card as a whole. I thought it was a great Saturday night watching that whole entire card from the prelims up. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna move on now from UFC 276, and we're gonna talk about this weekend's main event, and that is a lightweight fight between Rafael dos Anjos and Rafael Fiziev. We got the battle of the Rafaels. Michael, which one do you think wins?
You know what? They were supposed to fight in February, and it just feels like Rafael dos Anjos, RDA, has always been in this position, or not always, but for the past 7 to 8 years, they've been putting him in this position to kind of be like a gatekeeper. But even now, he's still much better than a gatekeeper. And I think he has a real shot to beat Rafael Fiziev, with his grappling. Now, on the feet, Fiziev's Tiger kickboxing background, that is scary.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with Tiger Muay Thai guys.
No, look at the wheel kick he just did to Brad Riddell, and I honestly, I think that loss against Fiziev played a big part in him getting submitted by Jalin Turner. I think mentally he couldn't take fighting another up-and-coming guy. But Fiziev is not fighting Brad Riddell. He's fighting RDA, Rafael dos Anjos. And dos Anjos put on a solid performance from a grappling standpoint against Renato Moicano. And I think if he's able to impart those same grappling skills against Fiziev, which I think he can, I think he'll win via split decision. I think it'll be a close fight, a competitive fight, but ultimately RDA will get a win. Similar to what happened against Paul Felder in November 2020. That's the way I see it, Dash.
Wow. I mean, taking the underdog. Fiziev is a minus 200 favorite, or at least when I checked this morning.
That's not bad. I like that. I like those odds.
Yeah. Plus 170 for RDA. I mean, in terms of a bet, not going to say anything, but I might say something. But I'm going to have to disagree with you, Michael.
Okay.
I think Rafael Fiziev is the guy who will put him out, right? He is going to be the gatekeeper for him. I think that he's going to open the gates wide open. And Rafael Fiziev is going to come in and just knock him out. Look, when I watched RDA's last fight against Renato Moicano, he was getting 1-2s through left and right. Like RDA, like you said, he had a great wrestling fight. He was able to dominate the fight by taking it to the ground. But Renato Moicano, when he was on the feet, was able to get clean shots off against RDA. And who has more power, Rafael Fiziev or Renato Moicano? Come on now. Rafael Fiziev has absolute hands of steel. And if he's able to land any of those clean shots, like another thing I saw was RDA going for takedowns. Moicano was able to land uppercuts. And again, I think if RDA is going to win, he's going to be looking for takedowns. And if Fiziev can time up one or two of them, he has just different power in those uppercuts. And look, Moicano, to me, exposed some weaknesses in RDA's defense that a guy like Rafael Fiziev, with just the absolute power that he has, can 100% take advantage of. I'm going to say Rafael Fiziev gets a round 2 knockout. He gets a round 2 knockout over RDA.
Wasn't Fiziev the same guy who had a big lead on Bobby Green and almost blew it? I love Bobby Green, but I think RDA is a better fighter. And, you could say, I don't play MMA math. But, I mean, look, he was tired at the end of that Bobby Green fight. He was. And RDA's not going anywhere, and he's going to keep grappling. So that's why I just think Fiziev has to get rid of him early, and it has to be through striking. I think maybe before the show, you and I spoke about it. Fiziev has a chance to pull off an incredible knockout. But there's a big if there. It's if he can do that. Because if you keep RDA alive, RDA is a tough cookie to put away.
Yeah, you can't go to decision with a guy like RDA. And again, if it goes past 3 rounds, I think that this is going to be a tough last 2 rounds to watch for Fiziev. He is going to get just thrown around to the ground. If it goes past 3 rounds, I even think he's going to get submitted. I think round 4 or 5, we're going to see just where Fiziev needs to really work on his MMA stuff, because we know how phenomenal he is on the feet. He's just an elite striker. But again, the reason why I have him winning this fight is, look, every single round starts on the feet, and RDA has to get him there. And when I watched Fiziev fight Moicano, you could see Moicano go for takedown, or he went for 1 takedown after he hit him, right? So it was a good timing takedown, but Fiziev was able to deny it, right? So if Fiziev is able to use his takedown defense and use some uppercut counters, this could be over. This could be over quick, because I don't think RDA is going to waste any time. I mean, I think he knows the game plan is take him down and hold him on the ground, because if we're on the feet, So I think that I just think that because it's going to start off like that, I could see him catching him with something on the way in. But again, if RDA decides that he's going to show Fiziev how good of a striker he is, then it's not going to be long. It's not going to be a long fight, because Fiziev, I think, is just in a different class from RDA standing up.
He should be, and I think he is, because even Paul Felder, if you remember that fight, Paul Felder was putting it on RDA.
Absolutely.
If it was a purely striking match, Paul Felder would have won easily. He might have even stopped RDA, but unfortunately for Paul Felder, not only did he take the fight on 5 days' notice, but he was just grappled to no end. And I would like to think Fiziev will have a better game plan, just because he's had an additional almost 5 months from when they were initially scheduled to fight. But yeah, it's going to be a tough fight for both guys. But if RDA can work on that grappling, he can win. For Fiziev, he's got to pull off either a wheel kick, or he just has to piece him up.
It's going to be I personally think he's going to land a straight right hand and finish it off with a clean left hook. That was one of his absolute best combinations. He throws it so fast. It comes out of nowhere, and it hits like a Mack truck. So, I mean, I would keep an eye out for that. I think that that two-piece combo, chicken and biscuits, round 2. Round two, Fiziev is going to knock him out. If it goes past round 3, this is just between you and me, it's an RDA fight. But it's not going to. It's not going to, Michael. It's going to be over with before it reaches the championship rounds, the main event rounds of 4 and 5. Because, yeah, if RDA is there, I mean, look, RDA has survived 5-round fights against Tony Ferguson, Robbie Lawler, Michael Chiesa, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, Leon Edwards. The list goes on and on, right? If it goes to 5 rounds, he has so much more experience. And I just think he has the stamina to just absolutely take over the fight in the later rounds.
Right.
But if it gets there, and I don't think it will, I think it has to get there for him to win. The early rounds are going to be all Fiziev. He's going to dominate rounds 1 and 2. And we're not even going to get to see what RDA has to show, because we're not going to make it that far, because Fiziev is just going to put him away.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think this is going to be this has the potential to be a very, very exciting main event, because if RDA is able to withstand what Fiziev has throwing at him in the first couple of rounds, Fiziev is going to he's going to gas out, and it's going to turn into a potential comeback of the year type of situation, I think. So keep an eye out for this one. It's either going to be a flashy knockout or an insane comeback from RDA. So yeah, I mean, this is a great fight. I'm very excited for this one this weekend. But yeah, I mean, we want to crown the new talent, but the old guard ain't done yet. Chase, I think he is done. And I mean, look, Fiziev is just an absolute step above Renato Moicano, who was the last person that he's the only person RDA has fought in the last 2 years. So I think that RDA he's just not ready for this guy in Fiziev. He's older now. Fiziev has just absolutely insane power for a lightweight. I mean, Michael, who would you compare his power to in the lightweight division? Can you compare it to somebody?
Gaethje, Chandler. Now, I'm not saying striking. I think from a striking standpoint, he's better than those guys.
Yeah, but just pure power and pure power.
Jalen Turner's up there. He's got a lot of power. You know what? An underrated guy who has been swept under the rug, and maybe it's also underrated in this part because he's so good on the ground. Beneil Dariush. He also has some power too, but yeah, if I'm considering like who really has power, right? It's obviously Gaethje, it's Poirier. Oliveira has power. Don't get me wrong, he does, and he's
not on the same tier. I think it's a step below.
Yeah, I would say though, if I'm gonna put anyone near Fiziev, it's probably gonna be Gaethje or Chandler, or maybe
those
McGregor.
Are absolute names. Maybe McGregor. That was where I was gonna go. I was gonna say
at his peak, maybe not now, but McGregor.
Peak McGregor.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, peak McGregor with the way he's able to just hit you with a straight and then a hook, and you're lights out.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what we're gonna see because I mean the way Fiziev just explodes, and his size. I mean it's just insane to me how anybody withstands that. I mean Bobby Green is an absolute. He's a guy who fights with his hands down, so you'd think, oh, he's going to get knocked out all the time, but that's not Bobby Green. Bobby Green is a very experienced veteran who knows how to go the distance in these fights, and he has a hell of a chin. So, I mean, we can't just discount his power because, oh, he didn't finish Bobby Green. And I think he's going to come back after that. I mean, again, his last fight was Fiziev's last fight was against Brad Riddell, who he was able to take out with that wheel kick. But again, I think that this is going to just be an absolutely I don't think there's going to be a dull moment in this fight. Again, maybe the first minute or so while they're feeling each other out, but once they start throwing, it's going to be bomb after bomb, and I think RDA is getting knocked out.
I mean, I hope it's a good fight. We've been waiting 5 months for this to happen. It seems like whenever RDA is main eventing a fight night, it gets scrapped. So it better be a good one. We've been waiting a long time to see RDA main event a fight night, or if he does main event it, it's against someone he wasn't supposed to fight initially. So I'm hoping for a good scrap.
Yep, me as well. But talking about a long time, Michael, you've been on this show for a very long time. You've been the absolute face of the Strikes and Submissions show. So I'm gonna let you take the floor here.
Thank you, Dash. I appreciate that. For those of you who don't know, this is actually my last show on Strikes and Submissions because tomorrow will be my last day with TWSN as I will be moving on to some new endeavors. But to say I enjoyed my time, not only on Strikes and Submissions, but at TWSN would be an understatement. It's been an awesome, awesome, awesome journey. I joined TWSN at the start of 2021, January 2021, and it has been one of the best experiences of my life. I'm not just saying that just to say that. And, some people will probably say, well, why are you leaving? Right? Well, at the end of the day, as great as things can be, sometimes it's just the right thing to move on, and experience new things. But I am definitely going to miss working with you, Dash, and everyone here at TWSN. There's just too many people for me to name. But talking about Strikes and Submissions, I remember joining this company. I started out just as a writer, like pretty much everyone does, or you start out as a content creator, and then you work your way up to getting onto a show. And I remember pestering our operations manager, Daniel Alameda, pestering this man. And I feel terrible for him. I'm like, hey, when can I get on a show? When can I get on a show? When can we get an MMA show? And he's like, well, we've talked with some other guys, we'll see. Start making some videos and we'll see what we're doing. So I'm like, all right. So I started making some videos and I just felt, I'm like, when am I going to get a show? Like, I want to hop on an MMA show or a boxing show. Finally, Daniel and our CEO, Malik, they shut me up and they allowed me to work with Dorian Wright And, it's been an incredible experience, having several co-hosts, Dorian being the first one, and being on every single episode of Strikes and Submissions. I mean, it's been awesome for me, so to work with you, Nader, Ted Ashbrook, who will be taking over next week or whenever you guys pick up, it has just been awesome, and doing the Saturday shows as well. It's just been amazing. And, I am going to miss working with you and all of the great people here. And this is just such an awesome company. It really is. And the freedom that everyone here has you can come in the company covering MMA and you can branch out and start covering golf. You can start covering college football. You can start covering NBA. It doesn't work like that at a lot of places, but Malik, Daniel, a ton of people, they allow everyone the freedom to do what you want, make sure you're working hard, but do what you want. And that's something that I'll remember for a long, long time. And, I'll be indebted to this place because, it's helped me out so much. It's made me grow not only as someone who was a co-host and a writer and an editor and did wore a bunch of different hats at this company. It has just been incredible. And, thank you, Chase. He's been such an awesome supporter through it all, especially the past few months. So, in closing though, because I know I've been rambling on a bit and I don't want to take too much shine away from what you and Ted are going to do on this show. It's been awesome, Dash, to see your growth. And, you came on this show in an uncertain time because, Dorian and I did the show for 10 months. Dorian stepped away. Then Nader, he answered the call. And then Nader, unfortunately, he also had to step away. But being able to work with you for these past 2 to 3 months since April, it's been awesome. So, without you, I wouldn't have been able to continue doing this show, and for you to be able to lead the show these past 2 weeks and kind of get a feel of what it's like to run the show. I think you're going to do an amazing job. And I know I told you offline, but I'll tell you here as well. I'm always a text or a call away, whatever you need, whether it's a question with hosting the show or any technical question, I'm always here for you and I'm always here for everyone at the company. So I'm glad my second to last day is tomorrow will be my last day spent with you and on the show that I started. It's like my baby, I'm kind of seeing my baby go off to college, so to speak. So it's a weird feeling to see other people running the show that I started and I fronted, but it's I'm happy for you, Dash, and I'm happy for the entire company.
Yeah, no, thank you, Michael. We're all gonna miss you very much. Myself, probably more than everybody else, because man, it's been great working with you. And I remember starting off when I joined the company, I was like, oh man, I like one of the shows that drew me to TWSN was the Strikes and Submissions show, which I had watched before I was even part of the company.
Thank you.
And I was like, oh man, that'd be awesome. I want to be on that one day, kind of thing. And so to be here now, to be taking over the show from you, it's an honor, it's a privilege. And yeah, it's just been great working with you, Michael. And I think I can speak for everybody at TWSN when I say you'll be missed dearly, and we've enjoyed our time with you very, very much. But yeah, as for the show's future, like Michael said, it'll be me and probably Ted Ashbrook, one of our great UFC analysts and MMA minds. And he was on the show last week. Make sure you go, you know the drill. You got to check him out, see what's up. But yeah, we're not exactly sure when the show will be coming on next. Very potentially could be next week, and I could see everybody next week. But we'll keep you updated. For those updates, you should go over to the TWSN Strikes and Submissions Twitter page at TWSN Strikes, and we'll post the updates there. But, Michael, I'm going to let you send us off today. I think it's only fair. Only fair.
I appreciate that, Dash. Before I do send it off, though, I think I wouldn't be doing myself and the show justice by mentioning 2 anniversaries. July 6, 2019 was when Jorge Masvidal became a superstar with his flying knee. And July 6, 2013 was Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman 1 when Chris Weidman knocked out Anderson Silva. So that's usually what I would do when Dorian was on. I haven't done it as much recently, bring up, anniversaries, but I figured to do that though, because it's such a great thing. And last thing, Dash, I needed to hear some boxing on this show when I leave and you and Ted are on here. I got to hear some boxing. Maybe not every week.
Me honest.
Maybe not every week, but for the big, especially Jake Paul coming up with who he's going to fight.
Absolutely.
But yeah, for one final time, for my co-host Dash Pederson, I'm Michael Daly saying so long and take care. This is Strikes and Submissions.